I'd like to welcome Ruth onto the stage now, please. Thank you.
So I'm going doofulous. Let's see if this works, hey? It's a magical miracle. So I'm going to take you back to Christmas 2008. If you remember, Julie was saying at this time nothing was happening in the world of mobile fundraising. And if any of you have or do work in development charities, you will also know that there is always a disaster at Christmas, usually just as you're trying to drink your first alcoholic drink and relax. Something catastrophic happens in the world and you have to go back to fundraising. In 2008, the conflict in Gaza broke out just after Christmas. And all of us in the international sector at the time launched our emergency appeals. And then, in January, it got significantly worse, and the conflict escalated to the point where the images coming back were shocking us all. We'd already launched our fundraising appeals. What could we do? And yet all of us felt we had to do more. So Save the Children did do more. They launched, although they already had an emergency fundraising appeal live, they launched their Enough is Enough campaign. And this is one of the first examples of text response that I saw in the UK. They ran 4 main broadsheet full-colour adverts, which had an SMS text response, which wasn't fundraising, it was a campaigning ask to text ceasefire and call for an end to the outrage that was happening in Gaza. The creative really focused on this feeling that I think wasn't just within fundraisers and the charity sector, but the general population, that this was absolutely appalling and had to stop. And Save the Children themselves said they wanted to give people a quick and easy outlet to express that concern. So their initial results are phenomenal. In a single weekend, the 10th and 11th of January, they got 100,000 text responses. I was just reading my notes before coming to this session, and I thought I'd made a typo, actually, and I thought it was 10,000, and then I checked back again. They really did get 100,000 cold responses to this campaign in 2 days. Their response back was a bounce-back text asking you to send it on to a friend. They got 180,000 responses in total from 4 adverts. Within a week, they had taken those responses to Downing Street, and that was an influential turning point, I believe, in the government of the UK calling for a ceasefire. Those of you who don't remember it, do you remember the BBC wouldn't even broadcast the DC appeal? It was seen as so controversial. After this campaign, our government called for ceasefire. And then the fundraising. So these calls were put into conversion on the 16th of January. We're talking about 7 days here since this campaign has launched. The conversion calling made 9,000 regular donors. That's an incredible conversion rate from a campaigning ask using a new channel. So 5% of people became regular givers. Save the Children tested a cash ask, a further cash ask, well, a first cash ask, against regular giving, and regular giving outperformed. So look at the trust they had immediately from these new donors, these people who'd sent one text message who wanted to commit to a regular support of that charity. The ROI was 1.4 to 1. Not as good as those from the 90s that we've been hearing about, but pretty amazing for a recruitment campaign, breaking even. So why do I love this? And why do I wish I had thought of it? Particularly because I was in a development charity at the time and actually could have thought of this. There's 3 reasons. It's really, really good fundraising. That in terms of being innovative, we'll talk about that later, but just in terms of the classic hallmarks of good fundraising, this was topical, it was urgent, it was emotive. It really caught the public's attention because it was where they were at and it resonated. And it had real integrity. Lots of people have talked about integrity and truth. This appeal was based on their fieldwork, rooted in their experience of what was happening on the ground, and it felt the raw emotion that their field workers, their fundraisers, all of their staff were feeling at the time. At the time that this happened, I was busy touting myself out, sadly not business class, but kind of basic class around the world, talking about how brilliant it was when you integrate campaigning and fundraising. And I was talking about this model of finding new ways into the donor pyramid. I was saying there's new ways you might recruit donors, which is by getting them to do a campaign action and then converting them. But to be honest, I wasn't really doing it in practice, and the examples I was giving were from other organisations in other countries. This was the first demonstration, I think, in the UK of this secret door to the donor pyramid that we'd all been talking about. This was the first time we'd really seen in the UK that campaigning as a way into fundraising was viable on a large scale. And finally, this, I think, was probably one of the first uses of text response that we had seen in the UK. So this was the very start of the journey that I think Julie was talking about right at the start of our afternoon. And look at what's happened since. You've got organisations like Vodafone putting their charitable money through their foundation now into promoting text giving as a channel, and it's becoming one of the most mainstream ways in which people give to charity in the UK today. I don't believe that would have happened without Save the Children using this to campaign in Gaza. So I wish I had thought of it.